Some of you may know this theory as client-centered therapy, while others know it as person-centered therapy. Carl Rogers changed his theory from client-centered therapy to person-centered approach to make it more applicable to anyone and not just counselors and clients. Rogers' basic assumption of client-centered therapy or person-centered therapy are that people are essentially trustworthy, that they have a vast potential for understanding themselves and resolving their own problems without direct intervention on the counselor's part, and that they are capable of self-directed growth if they are involved in a specific kind of therapeutic relationship. From the beginning, Rogers emphasized that the attitudes and personal characteristics of the counselor and the quality of the client-counselor relationship as the prime determinants of the outcome of the therapeutic process. He consistently relegated to a secondary position matters such as the counselor's knowledge of theory and techniques. The belief in the client's capacity for self-healing is in contrast with many theories that view the therapist's or counselor's techniques as the most powerful agents that lead to change. Carl Rogers revolutionized the field of psychotherapy by proposing this theory because it is a theory that is centered on the client as the primary agent for constructive self-change. I feel like these quotes really allow you to get an idea of who Carl Rogers was and what he believed. He once said, "The good life is a process, not a state of being. It is a direction, not a destination." He also said, "When I look at the world, I am pessimistic, but when I look at people, I am optimistic." Rogers believed people are generally trustworthy, and they want to understand themselves and try and overcome their obstacles all on their own. Carl Rogers was born in Oak Park, Illinois in 1902. He received his bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin in 1924, his master's from Columbia University in 1928, and his PhD in psychotherapy from Columbia University in 1931. Carl Rogers passed away in 1987. Carl Rogers was a humanist psychologist, which means he believed that one should study the whole person and not just the parts. Rogers believed that it is the client who knows what hurts, what directions to go, what problems are crucial, and what experiences have been deeply buried. Rogers believed his theory could be applied to all interactions, including relationships, marriages, parenting, education, and social interactions. In an interview with Carl Rogers' daughter Natalie, John Summers Flanagan discovered many important concepts of person-centered therapy. For example, Natalie reported to John, "To have faith in the individual, to have faith in that each person has the answers within himself or herself if given the proper conditions." Natalie also mentioned a gardener metaphor which I find very powerful. She stated, "I am the gardener, and I help the soil, and I water the plants, and fertilize the plants, and care for them. And I need to understand what the plant needs, what condition that plant needs for it to actually grow and become its full potential. I don't know all the answers, but I'm a person who creates the conditions for the person to grow." Carl Rogers rejected the deterministic nature of psychoanalysis and behaviorism. He believed we as people act the way we do because of how we perceive a certain situation or experience. He also believed that the client and counselor are equal. He did not think that the counselor was superior to the client. He believed the client should be in control over their own sessions, and the counselor should guide them along their journey. Rogers obtained better results by listening to his clients and allowing them to be in control of their treatment and which path they decide to take. With person-centered therapy, if we as counselors reflect what the client has stated to us, we can help them put the pieces of the puzzle together for them to dive deeper into their experiences and emotions. This can also allow them to better understand what they have stated to us. This theory allows counselors to provide clients with an environment where they are comfortable and they feel as though they are in control. Person-centered therapy is based on the assumption that it is the clients who heal themselves, who create their own self-growth, and who are active self-healers. The goals of person-centered therapy include to provide a safe climate conducive to client self-exploration so that they can recognize blocks to growth and can experience aspects of self that were formerly denied or distorted. Another goal is to enable them to move toward openness, greater trust in self, willingness to be a process, and increased aliveness. Another goal is to find meaning in life and to experience life fully. Another goal is to become more self-directed. Person-centered approach uses few techniques but stresses the attitudes of the counselor and a way of being. Counselors strive for active listening, reflection of feelings, clarification, being there for the client, and focusing on the moment-to-moment experiences of the client. This model does not include diagnostic testing, interpretation, taking a case history, or questioning for more information from the client. This image states that reflection of feeling is to restate the client's effective message and tone and to use a mirror effect. It helps to convey understanding, manage and validate emotions, encourage discussion, and discriminate against feelings. When we appropriately use the reflection of feelings, we should attend to nonverbal cues, normalize feelings, and explore depth and extent of problems. If it is inappropriately used, this involves minimizing feelings, the premature exploration of feelings, and overanalyzing reactions that clients have had. Person-centered therapy can be applied in many different settings, including individual and group counseling. It is especially well suited for the initial phases of crisis intervention work. Its principles have been applied to couples and family therapy, community programs, administration and management, and human relations training. It is a very useful approach for teaching and education, parent-child relations, and working with groups of people from diverse cultural backgrounds. Its focus is to break cultural barriers and facilitate open dialogue among diverse cultural populations. The main strengths of this approach include respecting clients' values, active listening, welcoming of differences, having a non-judgmental attitude, being understanding, and being willing to allow the client to determine what will be explored in sessions, and also prizing cultural pluralism. Rogers hypothesized that significant positive personality change does not occur except in the relationship. His hypothesis is basically unchanged to this day. 1. Two persons are in psychological contact. 2. The first person, who is the client, is in a state of congruence, being vulnerable or anxious. 3. The second person, who's the counselor, is congruent or genuine in the relationship. 4. The counselor experiences unconditional positive regard for the client. 5. The counselor experiences an empathetic understanding of the client's internal frame of reference and endeavors to communicate this experience to the client. And number 6. The communication up to the client of the counselor's empathetic understanding and unconditional positive regard is to a minimal degree achieved. During the 1950s and 1960s, Rogers and his associates continued to test the underlying hypotheses of the client-centered approach by conducting extensive research on both the process and the outcomes of psychotherapy. He was interested in how people best progress in psychotherapy, and he studied the qualities of client-counselor relationship as a catalyst leading into personality change. On the basis of this research, the approach was further redefined and expanded. Person-centered therapy came about during the early 1940s to 1950s. During this time, the psychoanalytic and behavioral theories were very popular. However, Carl Rogers developed his theory in opposition to those theories. Carl Rogers viewed people with more power and respect than many other psychologists during this time. There were also several events going on in the world during this time. For example, the Japanese surprise attack in 1941 brought the United States into World War II. In 1944, we have D-Day, or the day the Allies invaded Normandy. And in 1945, the United States dropped an atomic bomb on Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In the earliest years of this approach, the client, rather than the counselor, determined the direction of the goals of therapy, and the counselor's role was to help the client clarify those feelings. Later, a shift from clarification of feelings to a focus on the client's lived experiences took place. Many of Rogers' hypotheses were confirmed, and there was strong evidence for the value of the therapeutic relationship and the client's resources for successful therapy. As person-centered therapy developed further, research centered on the core conditions that assumed to be both necessary and sufficient for successful therapy: the attitude for the counselor, an empathetic understanding of the client's world, and the ability to communicate a non-judgmental stance to the client, along with the counselor's genuineness, were found to be basic to a successful therapy outcome. The main source of successful psychotherapy is the client. The counselor's attention to the client's frame of reference fosters the client's utilization of inner and outer resources. Carl Rogers believed unconditional positive regard, empathy, congruence, and genuine support were the key factors to person-centered therapy. He believed counselors should be non-judgmental and accepting. He believed counselors should be supportive and allow clients to lead discussions on their own. Rogers believed clients should participate in reflection, paraphrasing, and summarizing. He believed we should listen to the client and then restate several of the things they said back to them, to allow them to truly hear what they said, and also to allow them to experience it differently. Rogers believed we become destructive when a poor self-concept or external force overrides our valuing process. He also considered unconditional positive regard as a negative force that can cause someone to hurt or suffer. Rogers believed that making someone live up to our standards or approval was nearly impossible. He felt that withholding love, acceptance, and approval until someone has met those standards could be very harmful to someone. He also thought that trying to live up to someone's or something's, such as society's standards, can be very harmful because they make us set unrealistic expectations that could quite possibly never be met. I like the description included with this picture. It says, Rogers believed that children are optimistic by nature, and if they possess a strong self-worth, they will be empowered by feeling that anything is possible. To surround themselves with an environment that is accepting, genuine, and empathetic. Without these key concepts, Rogers believed people would not experience healthy or appropriate relationships, and that their personalities would not fully develop. When counselors are caring, respectful, accepting, supportive, and understanding, clients have the freedom to explore areas of their life that were either denied to awareness or distorted. Rogers also believed that everyone can achieve their goals and wishes in life. And if and when these goals are met, a person can reach self-actualization. Self-actualization occurs when the idea of who someone hopes to be matches who they truly are. People who reach self-actualization are considered a fully functioning person. Research shows that the attitude of counselors, rather than their knowledge, theories, or techniques, can facilitate personality change in the client. I like the description included with this image as well. It says, the closer our self-image and ideal self are to each other, the more consistent or congruent we are, and the higher our sense of self-worth. believed these concepts to be the characteristics of the fully functioning self. Number 1, you must be open to experience. This includes positive and negative experiences. We should learn to cope with negative experiences instead of denying or running from them because they allow us to grow. Number 2, existential living. We need to appreciate the present and live in the moment. The past and the future are both very important, but it is the present is what we are in right now. Number 3, trust feelings. We should trust ourselves to make the right choices. If we make a wrong choice, we must be able to accept it and to learn from that choice. Number 4, creativity. We should be able to adjust to and accept change. We should take healthy and appropriate risks in order to grow. And number 5, fulfilled life. This involves being content and happy. A person who is happy and content will accept new challenges and experiences and are able to grow in the best way possible. I would now like for you to take a moment and listen to Carl Rogers counseling Gloria. In this counseling session, he uses person-centered therapy. Please notice how he does not answer Gloria's questions, but comes up with creative ways to help her to answer her own questions.
Good morning. Hello. I'm Dr. Rogers. You must be Gloria.
Yes, I am.
Let's have this chair. Now, we have half an hour together, and I really don't know what we'll be able to make of it, but I hope we can make something of it. I'd be glad to know whatever concerns you.
Well, right now I'm nervous, but I feel more comfortable the way you're talking in a low voice, and I don't feel like you'll be so harsh on me. But,
I hear the tremor in your voice, so where are these?
well, the main thing I want to talk to you about is I'm just newly divorced, and I had gone in therapy before, and I felt comfortable when I left, and all of a sudden now the biggest change is adjusting to my single life. And one of the things that bother me the most is especially men and having men to the house and how it affects the children. And the biggest thing the thing that keeps coming to my mind I want to tell you about is I have a daughter, 9, who at one time I felt I had a lot of emotional problems. And I wish I could stop shaking. And I'm real conscious of things affecting her. I don't want her to get upset. I don't want to shock her. I want so bad for her to accept me. And we're real open with each other, especially about sex. And the other day, she saw a girl that was single but pregnant, and she asked me all about, can girls get pregnant if they're single? And the conversation was fine, and I wasn't unease at all with her until she asked me if I'd ever made love to a man since I've left her daddy. And I lied to her. And ever since that, it keeps coming up to my mind because I feel so guilty lying to her because I never lie, and I want her to trust me. And I almost want an answer from you. I want you to tell me if it will affect her wrong if I told her the truth or what.
And it's this concern about her and the fact that you really aren't, that this open relationship that has existed between you now you feel is kind of...
Yes, I feel like I have to be on guard about that because I remember when I was a little girl, when I first found out my mother and father made love, it was dirty and terrible, and I didn't like her anymore for a while. And I don't want to lie to Pammy either, and I don't know...
I sure wish I could give you the answer as to what you should tell her.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
Because what you really want is an answer.
I want to especially know if it would affect her, if I was completely honest and open with her, or if it would affect her because I lied. I feel like it's bound to make a strain because I lied to her.
Sort of feels she'll suspect that, or she will know something's not quite
I
right.
feel that inside she'll distrust me, yes. And also I thought, well, gee, what about when she gets a little older and she finds herself in touchy situations? She probably wouldn't want to admit it to me because she thinks I'm so good and so sweet. And yet I'm afraid she could think I'm really a devil. And I want so bad for her to accept me. And I don't know how much a 9-year-old can take.
And really, both alternatives concern you, that she might think you're too good or better than you really are.
Yes.
And she might think that you're worse than you are.
Not worse than I am. I don't know if she can accept me the way I am. I think I paint a picture that I'm all sweet and motherly, and I'm a little ashamed of my shady side, too.
I see. It really cuts a little deeper. If she really knew you, could she accept you?
This is what I don't know, yes. I don't want her to turn away from me.
That
And I don't
relationship-
even know how I feel about it, because there are times when I feel so guilty, like when I have a man over. I even tried to make a special setup so that if I were ever alone with him, the children would never catch me and that sort of thing. Because I'm real leery about it. And yet I also know I have these desires.
So it's quite clear. It isn't only her problem or the relationship with her, it's in you as well.
And my guilt, yeah, I feel guilty so
What
often.
can I accept myself as doing? And,
Yes, yes.
And you realize that you set up sort of subterfuges so as to make sure that you're not caught or something. You realize that you are acting from guilt, is it?
Yes. I don't like the way, I would like to feel comfortable with whatever I do. If I choose not to tell Pammy the truth, to feel comfortable that she can't handle it, and I don't. I want to be honest, and yet I feel there are some areas that I don't even accept.
If you can't accept them in yourself, how could you possibly be comfortable in telling them to her?
Right.
And yet, as you say, you do have these desires and you do have your feelings, but you don't feel good about them.
Right. And I have a feeling you're just going to sit there and let me stew in it, and I want more. I want you to help me get rid of my guilt feeling. If I can get rid of my guilt feeling about lying or going to bed with a single man, any of that, just so I can feel more comfortable.
And I guess I'd like to say, no, I don't want to let you just stew in your feelings. But on the other hand, I also feel that this is the kind of very private thing that I couldn't possibly answer for you. But I sure as anything will try to help you work toward your own answer. I don't know whether that makes any sense to you, but I mean it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. You sound like you mean it. But I don't know where to go. I don't begin to know where to go. I thought that I'd pretty well worked over most of my guilt, and now that this is coming up, I'm disappointed in myself. I really am. I like it when I feel that no matter what I do, even if it's against my own morals or my upbringing, that I can still feel good about me. And now I don't. Like, there's a girl at work who sort of mothers me. And I think she thinks I'm all sweet. And I sure don't want to show my more ornery, devilish side with her. I want to be sweet. And it's so hard for me to, this all seems so new again. And it's so disappointing.
Yeah, I get the disappointment that here, a lot of these things you thought you'd worked through, and now the guilt and the feeling that only a part of you is acceptable to anybody else.
Yes.
That keeps coming out. I guess I do catch the real deep puzzlement that you feel as to what the hell shall I do? What can I do?
Yes, and you know what I can find, Doctor, is that everything I start to do, impulse, it seems natural to tell Pammy or to go out on a date or something. I'm comfortable until I think how I was affected as a child. And the minute that comes up, then I'm all haywire. Like, I want to be a good mother so bad, and I feel like I am a good mother. But then there's those little exceptions. Like my guilt's with working. I want to work, and it's so fun having extra money. I like to work nights. The minute I think I'm not being real good to the children or giving them enough time, then I start feeling guilty again.
Gloria demanded an answer from Carl Rogers. She wanted him to tell her what she should do or how it would affect her daughter. Carl Rogers informed her that that was something he couldn't quite possibly answer, but that he was there to help her come up with an answer. This is exactly what person-centered therapy is all about. Carl Rogers also reflected on several different feelings and emotions that Gloria had stated to him. He also was very non-judgmental the entire time they were in session. It's now time for everyone's favorite part, question time. Question number 1. Do you agree with Carl Rogers that withholding love, acceptance, and approval until someone has met those standards could be very harmful to someone? Question number 2. What is your overall opinion of Carl Rogers' person-centered theory, and how would or could you apply this to your counseling profession? Here are my references and sources that I used. I encourage you to go to YouTube and search Carl Rogers and Gloria Counseling. There are many different parts, but these are very beneficial in order to get a better understanding of what person-centered therapy is. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to ask.